Hey everybody, this is my 125 gallon tank, and today we're going to tinker around with the lighting a little more. I did a video not too long ago where I switched over the lights on either end of the tank. If you're not familiar with the way the lights are set up on this tank and my other 125, these are 6-foot long tanks. So I have a 4-foot shop light running down the middle, nothing fancy at all. It's a $10 or $12 light that I got from the Wally World. It's got 2 T8 tubes in it, and then at either end of the tank, again, I have a very inexpensive little aluminum reflectors. They're just sort of little utility lights, and I had compact fluorescent lights in those little reflector domes. They cost about $8 or $10 a piece, plus you have to supply your own light bulb. I recently changed those CFLs on either end to the new LEDs that sort of look like a light bulb. It looks like a frosted white light bulb, and I really like the light they produce. And when I shot that video, I said that this tank is now fully converted over to LED because I've recently put LED shop lights on several of my tanks, and likewise it's an inexpensive utility light that's not really meant to go over a fish tank, but it serves the purpose. And on my other, I've got them on 2 of my 55s, and my 125 gallon native tank has one of these Lights of America shop lights. They cost $38. They were a great deal. So on and so forth. At any rate, when I did a water change on this video I did a water change video on this tank the other day. There we go, that's what I was trying to say. And while I was doing it, I realized that I still have the old shop light on there that has the T8 tubes in there. Now, that's the fixture I put on there when I set this tank up 2.5 years ago. So those tubes need to be changed by now, regardless of whether I'm just going to replace those tubes or I am going to switch out to an LED. So I decided, of course, I do want to switch this tank over to all LED. I thought I already had, in fact. And when I went out to the Wily World to get another one of those Lights of America lights, they no longer had them. They have another brand called Hyper Tough, and I've not yet put it on the tank as a trial run to see what it looks like. There's a couple differences between this light and the other ones, and the two key differences are this one is really bright. It's listed as being 5,000 lumens, whereas the other ones, which I thought were pretty bright, were only 4,500 lumens. I'm not going to get into a big discussion about lumens right now, but lumens describe the apparent brightness, how bright it appears to our eyes. So 4,500 lumens, if you are familiar with my other tanks and you've seen how bright these shop lights are on some of my other tanks, this is even brighter than that. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what it's going to do over this tank. It's going to light it up like mid-afternoon probably. It is a 5000K color temperature. It's 45 watts instead of 40 watts. And then the other key difference is that the 2 strips of diodes, the 2 LED strips, run very close together down the middle of the fixture. They're only about 2 inches apart, whereas one of the things I liked about the other fixture was that those LEDs were fairly spread apart. They were about 4 inches apart, and on my 55s in particular, with that narrow tank, it really spread the light out sort of evenly. So with this tank here has got an 18-inch depth front to back, not, you know, height top to bottom, but front to back, this tank's 18 inches deep. And with these 2 light strips basically being side by side, the way the hoods are on this tank is the seam for the what's the word I'm looking for? The hinges on the hood are forward of the center line on the tank. So I think by putting the shop light up against the seam, or the hinge rather, I'll still be able to open my hood with no problem, and the 2 strips of LEDs will actually be right down the center of the tank. So I'm really looking forward to what this is going to look like once we've got it on there. So now that you've had a good long look at your before, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And there's your after. So I really like it. The fish are still kind of getting used to it. Of course, I did have to turn the light off and remove the other one, and that was just moments ago, so the tank is still a little stressed out. But that gives you an idea of what the actual lighting in the tank looks like. And again, I think it looks fantastic. So before I put it on the tank, I went ahead and shot a little bit of video showing you what the unit itself looks like. So let's go ahead and have a look at that now. Alright everybody, before we get this put on the tank, I'm going to show everybody a look, at least what it looks like. So again, this is the simple box it comes in. It's just a shop light. The other thing that I have not yet mentioned in the video is that I only paid $23 for this shop light. So I'm really anxious to see what it looks like once it's on the tank. So that's what I mean by how close together these LED strips are. It does have a chain pull, if I can prevent myself from sticking it through the ceiling. It does have a chain pull, but I mean it's a little flimsy, no frills unit. All you need is these two LED strips side by side. So there you go, $23. Alright, now as I mentioned, for $23, that is just a fantastic deal. I absolutely love this light already for $23. The plants I have in this tank are all fairly low light plants, so whatever quality light these LEDs are going to produce, I'm sure it's going to be a good enough quality for these plants to do well. If you've got a tank that is a high-tech planted tank, or you have plants that have high lighting requirements, I wouldn't necessarily suggest going out and buying one of these inexpensive shop lights. But for my needs, I think it's going to do really well. I can't imagine Water Sprite and Java Fern not thriving under this much light, even if it is this simple LED light. Now, I say all the time, most LEDs do not actually draw as many watts as they have written on the package. Some do, some don't. It just depends on how they list it. That number very well could be the amount of wattage it's capable of handling, but that does not necessarily mean that's what the driver sends to the chips. So this one says it's a 45 watt light. Giving it the benefit of the doubt and saying that they're calling it a true 45 watts, then my old light that was on there was 72 watts. And it was T5 tubes that, of course, had to be replaced every so often. Again, in a situation like this with these very low light type plants, you can get away with going a couple of years before you have to replace them. But you still have to replace your fluorescent tubes from time to time. They do wear out. Again, they're not expensive, but it's something you have to do. It is an ongoing maintenance cost and that sort of thing. Whereas these LEDs are just pretty much good forever. They're rated for 10 years. But the quality of the light degrades so slowly that as long as the unit is still working, after 10 years, you're probably going to still have a roughly 90 to 92% of the light spectrum you started with originally. Whereas with a fluorescent tube, you know, after a couple of years, you've lost 50% of the quality of your lighting that quickly, and it's time to replace your tubes. You just don't have to worry about that with LEDs. So I'm a huge fan of LEDs. I can't wait till the day where every light we see everywhere we go, from the space shuttle to the headlights in your cars to the bat signal, is LEDs. And so hopefully with another few months, I'm going to have pretty much every tank in this room is going to be lit up with LEDs. I'm finished my project on my brackish tank. I'm not happy with it, but I'm not unhappy with it. But you're going to have to wait. I'm not ready to shoot some video about that yet. But make sure you're subscribed and you won't miss it. I will be shooting some video of that tank very soon. And thanks for watching this one. Don't forget, this one here is my 125 gallon tank. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you real soon on the next one.